Oh, hi guys. So today I thought I would make an interesting video about what the left-wing American academics mean when they talk about whiteness, white supremacy, and similar kinds of concepts, because there is a huge difference between what Europeans and British people think when they hear those words and what a lot of left-wing American academics think. So I thought this would be an interesting video. I'll try to be succinct and I will try to be fairly clear. So, when your average British person who hasn't been around university recently hears the word white supremacy or whiteness or any of these kinds of racial terms, they kind of think of maybe mid century Germany, actual people who believed in a racial supremacy, and they obviously think of the atrocities that kind of went on around about this time. And, to be sort of associated with this is one of the worst things that people can imagine. And generally speaking, this is why a lot of people have a very kind of angry and visceral reaction to these types of this type of language. So here we have a lady at a recent Oxford Union debate, and we're going to basically listen to what she says because this is kind of a context which is interesting, and this is kind of what we're talking about here. This is really, really recent. It's from the Oxford Union. Let's just have a little watch.
Now, to move not beyond meat, but move on with the debate, I call upon Kara Adams to conclude the side proposition.
I've read the motion, and I believe we should move beyond all meat. So, what we choose to eat has consequences far beyond the circumference of our plates. Specifically, your vote tonight expresses your allegiance to or rejection of a white supremacist patriarchal worldview.
Wow, that's pretty intense. White supremacists, she said. What does that mean? Does she mean that we are gonna... people who eat meat are a bit like the mid-century Germans? Not all Germans, obviously. I just don't want to use their name or the common name that they used for themselves. No, that's not what she means at all. She means something completely different. So, I thought we would go over what she actually means and what a lot of these American academics are talking about when they talk about whiteness and white supremacy and whatnot. So, first of all, we have to look at ethnicity in the UK. So here we see different groups of people in the UK, and this is just a graph of academic attainment. And at the top here we see Chinese, Indian, Asian other, mixed white or Asian, white Irish, Bangladesh, mixed other. So we've got all these different categories. White British is down here, black African is here, mixed white or black African is here, for example. So in other words, there are a lot of different categories that we have in the UK for race, basically, or ethnicity. Ethnicity is basically a broken down version of race. Race is kind of an obsolete term at this point. This is very different from the American conception, as we will see. So, just because I thought it was interesting, here are earnings by different groups in the UK. So we can see Chinese people at the top here earning £15 an hour. I would say it's about $20 an hour. White British people, on average, are earning £12 an hour. Different groups are earning less. Pakistanis, for example, are earning £10 an hour. So I thought this was an interesting little graph, but this is how British people conceptualize ethnicity, basically. Now, class is something different. In the UK, we have this concept of class, and everyone basically falls into the class system somewhere. It's partially based on culture, and it's also partly based on what you do for a living. So, for example, the precariat at the bottom here are people who might be on benefits. They might not have a stable income. kind of at the bottom of society. This is nothing to do with race or ethnicity. This is to do with class. You've got your traditional working class, the technical middle class, for example. You've got the elite right at the top here. And most people in the UK will understand this. They might use different categories, for example. This is more of a sort of academic breakdown of social class in the UK. Let's look at the American version of class, or I should say the left progressive American class system. So they would say that white is at the top. You have to use the capital W here because this white category is distinct from the skin tone. And at the bottom here you have BIPOC and black. This is not my conception, by the way. This is their conception. So they would say there are a lot of black people who are capital white, and there might also be white people who are kind of in the black and BIPOC sphere, which is kind of confusing. But let me just show you how they break it down. So black and white on the left here are skin tones. Now, these are American classes. Black is an American class that they have invented, and white is, again, another class. Notice the capital letters at the front. I know this is kind of confusing, but when they talk about white supremacy, what they are basically talking about are the people who are here at the top of society. Now, this is very, very strange, because where would you place Barack Obama? He's definitely elite, but they might say, for example, maybe he is adopted or being adopted into the white group, for example. This is, like I say, completely insane as far as I'm concerned, but this is what they mean when they talk about whiteness and white supremacy. They're basically talking about the upper classes in America, people who subscribe to the dominant culture, they might say, people who are not marginalized. Here's a meme which I found interesting. So, two ethnic groups in the USA, white and people of color, or as they call them now, BIPOC. I'm just going to say BIPOC is a ridiculous term because it means black, indigenous, person of color. As an English person, I'm indigenous to the UK, so technically I'm BIPOC in the British context. So it doesn't really work outside of America. One thing I would say is they also have a concept of marginalization and power. So they would say that people who conform to the dominant categories, let's say, are more powerful than people who are on the margins. Again, this is kind of a theory of class, but they are not going by socioeconomics. They are going by categories. So, for example, in America, they would say if you are of European descent, you are going to be within the sphere of power than people who are not of European descent. Here we have it, white and racialized. Racialized is an interesting term because you basically, it doesn't mean people who are of a particular race. It actually refers to people who have kind of racialized themselves or who have been racialized. So it isn't an innate category, which means that you can kind of have black, white people in the American system, which is really strange. A good example of this is a person in America who was running to be in the government called Larry Elder. They were saying he is a sort of white black person, the sort of blackface of white supremacy, all of this. And again, white supremacy doesn't refer to the 1950s Germany. It refers to anyone who is within the sphere of power here. But again, this is a ridiculous kind of conception, I would say, because if we, again, look at the British system, notice there's nothing to do with race or categories in here. It is simply based on the kind of culture you have. You might be working class culture, for example, and the kind of job that you do. And this is a far more accurate way of looking at society than trying to racialize everything. Like I say, their theory doesn't work, because if you can have black white people and white black people, which you can in the ridiculous American system, the whole thing just seems completely broken. Anyway, guys, I hope that kind of sheds some light on the topic. I wanted to do this for a little while, so yeah, thanks for bearing with me. And hopefully, if you have any questions, please let me know what you think, and I will speak to you guys soon.